Montana lawmakers ready to roll the dice and up the ante on sports gambling across the state.
With the Super Bowl just days away, viewers will be looking for the chance to win big. And these days, you no longer have to travel to Sin City to make those dreams come true.
Q2's Casey Conlin is taking a closer look at what this could mean. Tonight, he shows us how sports betting has found its place in the U.S. and when it might be heading to Montana.
Russ and Janelle, Sunday is the biggest day of the year for advertisers, grocery stores, and sports gamblers. Last year, $158 million was wagered in Nevada on the Super Bowl, an all-time record. But that number will be dwarfed this year because of a Supreme Court ruling last May that has brought betting into the mainstream more than ever before. Sports gambling has a complicated history in the United States. You can trace origins back to horse racing during the Civil War and the rise of boxing in the early 1900s. But the industry was largely underground, frowned upon in public thanks to numerous scandals, none more famous than 8 members of the Chicago White Sox throwing the World Series 100 years ago this October. Nevada was the first state to legalize sports betting in 1949, but the federal government imposed a 10% tax on winnings, which many early operators couldn't cover, so the industry was basically dead on arrival. Then, in 1974, that tax was reduced to 2%, and the Las Vegas sportsbook you know today was born.
3 key elements to having a sports book. You wanted to enhance the overall resort, the property experience. You wanted to attract new customers and make some money.
Vinny Magliulo is a Vegas heavyweight, going back to his days in charge of the Caesar Palace Sportsbook in the 80s and 90s. He was there when Congress passed the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act in 1992, barring states from offering any new forms of sports wagering. Just 4 of them offered some type at the time: Nevada, Oregon, Delaware, and Montana. That's why you see squares pools in bars and the famous pig races just outside Red Lodge. Montana had the chance to legalize full-scale wagering, so why didn't they? Because of the state's largest sports governing body, according to one of its most famous sons.
Montana was grandfathered in. They could have done it, but the NCAA basically put a gun to their head and said you won't have any more championship events in Missoula or Bozeman if you go ahead and legalize it. And of course, the legislature wilted.
In his 50 years as a sportscaster, Brent Musburger has always acknowledged that gambling plays a large role in sports, so much so that he now is the managing editor at the Vegas Stats and Information Network, a gambling-centric sports talk show based in the South Point Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, a show that has become much more popular across the country in the last 8 months for one reason.
In a 6-3 vote yesterday, the justices struck down a decades-old federal law.
On May 14th of last year, the Supreme Court voted to overturn the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, making it legal for all 50 states to approve new betting legislation. So far, 7 have. New Jersey was first, taking bets starting midway through June, and in just 6.5 months, saw $1.25 billion wagered in 2018. Some believe the more states that allow it, the worse it will be for Nevada, who has held a monopoly for so long. But that hasn't been the case so far. The 2 highest grossing months in Silver State history were this past November and September.
I think what it shows overall is that our industry, our niche industry, or cottage industry at one time, is now becoming more mainstream. And I think what it's doing is creating more customers overall. So I think it's a good thing.
That's what Montana tavern and casino owners are hoping for. Kirk Dealer runs the Enterprise, the only casino in Billings that offers pari-mutuel wagering at horse racing tracks around the country.
It's been a really good thing to get people in the door. Just having that little niche that brings people in the door and keeps them around. And you know, I've known a lot of people that have actually called here and like, do you guys have sports betting?
The short answer is no. The longer answer is not yet, but maybe soon. 3 different organizations are writing legislation right now, with a draft possibly finished as early as tomorrow. Join us after the Super Bowl on Sunday, where we dive into the timeline and what sports gambling in Montana might look like.